built up palaces in this area. They took the rocks that had fallen down from when Titus, the Romans, had destroyed Jerusalem, had destroyed the temple. These rocks fell down. They took them and put them into palaces around here. And that's why when you look over here, you can see a rock. You see this row of rocks, which appears to come from the Temple Mount. In fact, it does come from the Temple Mount, but that wall was used as a palace for the Umayyad dynasty. And that's why walking through here gets so confusing, the Umayyad dynasty. And that's why walking through here gets so confusing, because we're walking between different types of rocks, different types of constructions, one people coming after another after a third. We're looking at the Jews in Jerusalem during the Second Temple time. And if we're looking at that, we can look at this pillar right over here. Can anybody read Latin, understand Latin? Want to try to read what you can read from this direction? The political center of the temple. Remember, it wasn't just a religious place, it was also a political and diplomatic place. When the Romans destroyed the walls, destroyed the temple, they knocked everything down and things came falling down. And among those things that came falling down was this pillar over here. Now after they destroyed the temple, the pillar was then taken and used in a Roman camp in the area, and the soldiers inscribed into the pillar. Now Titus is also mentioned in that pillar. We can't really read it well, but archaeologists have found Titus written on here. And it's kind of interesting to think that this pillar was found on the 8th day of Av in the year 1970. Now we know the temple was destroyed on the 9th of Av in the year 70, 1900 years before. When we think about it, Titus is written on this pillar, and Titus on the 8th day of Av was up there on the Mount of Olives trying to decide what to do. How should I take the temple? Should I burn it down or should I conquer it? If I conquer it and use it, I'll have a great headquarters. If I burn it down, then I'll show that the Jews have really lost out. And that
Michael, go ahead, Michael, your turn, Michael. Louder.
None of this was here. What was here was the temple. What was here was steps leading up to the temple. We'll go into it in a minute. But if you come and you look at these two stones, this one right here, and this one over here, the wall, and why would he put a Herodian stone in his wall? And the fact is, he found two good-sized rocks, they fit into the wall, and they put them into the wall. And here you have a Muslim ruler building a wall using stones that were used during the Byzantine times when Jerusalem was Christian, and Herodian times when Jerusalem was kind of Jewish. And again, the story of Jerusalem, one taking from the other, taking from the third. But again, we're looking at Jerusalem from the Second Temple period time. We're looking at Jerusalem from a time when if they looked at us getting on airplanes, coming over for 2, 3, 4 weeks, compare the two religions. Today in Islam, the pilgrimage is made to Mecca. And anyone that makes it to Mecca gets to add Hajj onto his name. Because he's gone, he's made the Hajj, he's made the pilgrimage. It was the same concept in Judaism. You make your pilgrimage to Jerusalem, you have made it to where a Jew should be. And now we're going to go look and see where they came to and what they came to. Into the temple, into where he had come to, into the place of his desire. And as mundane as these steps seem when we're sitting on them now, this is where every Jew in the world wanted to come to. Because once again, if we look at this diagram here, you see there are a number of entrances along the western wall, but none of them were used for Amcha. None of them were used for what was called the Hamonim, the general population. They were for the Kohanim, for the priests. Because remember, this side was directly into the temple, the sanctuary in the temple. That means that everyone would come to this side, the southern wall. This building over here, you have to ignore it. It's only 800 years old. It's a Crusader building. That wall, you have to ignore it. It's only 400 years old. What we are against is this entire wall. There was nothing up to it, leading up to it, except for these steps that you see over here. Now remember I told you about that jug with the air, the holy air, right? If you wanted to buy holy air 2,000 years ago, this is the area you would come to. You come to this area, and here there are shops. Did anybody see the movie The Last Temptation of Christ? No, I didn't either because it wasn't shown here in Israel. But there's a scene there that shows Jesus coming down to the temple and to the shops in the area of the temple. Those shops were this area right over here. Because remember, we're talking about people that were tourists. They were tourists and they wanted to buy presents. And one of those presents was that jug with air. Another present would have been a piece of pottery or something inscribed with Jerusalem. And when a tourist comes to a city, what's the first thing that he does or she does?
Shop.
Before he shops, they change their money. And of course you would change your money here because you needed to change your money to the special money used in the temple. And what else would you need to do? Buy stamps. Before you buy stamps, you need a place to stay. This whole area was covered with hostels. A 5-star hostel had a private mikveh. A 4-star hostel had a private room but a communal mikveh. And so on and so forth. And it sounds kind of funny, kind of joking, but we know that they were found here. The big mikvahs, the small mikvahs, the fancy buildings, the not so fancy buildings. Because remember, the people are the same type of people we have today. People that come, they leave their homes, they want comforts. They know that they have to go into a mikvah. They'd rather, if they can afford it, go into a private mikvah rather than go into a communal public mikvah. Now these steps led up into the temple. During the days of David and days of Solomon, there were no steps here. The people that had to go up had to climb up a slope. In the book of Ezekiel it says that the Temple Mount is the highest mountain in all of Jerusalem. Not only in all of Jerusalem, but in the entire world. Now it doesn't really make much sense. If you look, the Mount of Olives is higher than Mount Moriah. Armon Hatziv, where the Has Promenade is higher than Mount Moriah. As a matter of fact, it's the lowest peak in the whole city. So clearly, why is it the highest mountain? Spiritually. But on the other hand, if you think about it, you're coming from the city of David down there where Jerusalem began. You have to carry your sacrifice. You're carrying your wood. You're carrying a little bit of water, maybe some incense. By the time you make it up to the top of the hill without the steps, it is the highest mountain in the world because nothing else matters. Herod wanted to change that. Herod wanted to make things easier, so he built up these steps. And there's a narrow step, a wide step, a narrow step, a wide step. Because you could walk up, you could stop. You could walk up, you could stop. And you know, when you say grace after meals on Shabbat, when you say it on the Sabbath, there's a verse that's added on before. What is it? Shir Hamalot. Remember Shir Hamalot? There's a verse in the Psalms called Shir Hamalot, a song of ascension. That song of ascension was sung on the steps of the temple inside the area of the sanctuary. Now, these aren't the exact steps, but these are as close as we come. And even though most of these steps are reconstructed, what you see that looks like it needs reconstruction.
Gordon Frank coming down the wall, the steps leading to the old temple.
Howard, can you imagine standing there collecting 100,000 tickets?
Windows up there too?
Or for Pesach or whatever they were, for Shabbos? Shabbat?
Oh, when the usher making sitting this.
Yeah,
There goes Michael again. He's off on another riff. He drifted away. It's hard to keep this kid concentrating on one subject, but he's working on it. What a super guy.
That's Gordon Frank being a dick.
Peace unto thee. Shalom Aleichem. Go Gators.
They left the metal pieces in the wall. Okay.
Graffiti from 400 years from the year 400 in the temple. Underneath what was known as an archway going into the temple.
It was after Christ. After Christ, yeah. 400. It was the Emperor Justinian.
Justinian time.
The streets rose. What Herod did, according to Josephus, was to dig out an outline of what he wanted. And then he dragged the stones down, dropping them into the support trenches. Every time he had to raise the layer of the walls, he filled in with dirt and paving stones again, dragged the stones down, pushed them in the wall. Up, push, until when he finished, he had this hill with the little temple and the dirt all around. So he took out the dirt. Can't leave the dirt, it's going to push on the non-cemented walls. And then he paves the top on cantilevered arches